Моя игра, здесь правила одни и цель одна. Моя игра, она мне принадлежит.
It's a pretty simple game and a pretty simple life, and when you're in it, all the decisions in your life are made, you know, what time the bus leaves, what time the plane leaves, when you're going to eat dinner, and all you have to do is show up at the rink and play, and it's certainly, that lifestyle was very appealing to me. I liked it.
Bobby Clark's Hall of Fame career was a personal journey that began in a northern Manitoba mining community. Through 15 NHL seasons, Clark was hockey's ultimate warrior, a born leader whose intense desire to win turned an expansion franchise into a Stanley Cup champion. Bobby Clark was born August 13, 1949, in Flin Flon, Manitoba, a place where the winters were cold and the hockey games lasted till spring.
I really have no idea why I love playing hockey. I know the other kids in the neighborhood played and everybody played, and I was the one who just kept going and going right through till I was an adult. When I was a kid, didn't have television, so we listened to Saturday night hockey games and dreamed of being Gordie Howe or Maurice Richard or whoever in those days. When we got television up there, and they called it that CAN TV, and we used to get the hockey games a week late, so you knew who scored and what the score was, but you hadn't seen the game. On the weekends, we got to play indoors, one game a week indoors, and the rest of it was always on the outdoor ice. And they'd flood the ice maybe once every 2 weeks. The city would flood the ice, and when the ice was real smooth, there'd be a group of us that get up at 5 or 6 in the morning and go skate before school so you could get the good ice. You might have 5 on each team or 10 on each team, and the game was just who could keep the puck the longest, you know. And of course, with the snow and everything, guys are getting knocked over the boards into the snow and fighting, and there was no adult supervision or anything, so it was terrific. And you just learned to play hockey that way.
With the Flin Flon Bombers of the Western Hockey League, Clark developed a tenacious playing style, thanks to a coach who taught that success requires sacrifice and desire determines victory.
I think the one coach who had the most influence on the way I played and how my passion for the game and stuff was Patty Janelle. He got me when I was 16 or 17 and just starting junior, and it was actually his first year of coaching, and he really made you work hard, but he brought so much enthusiasm and made you play with courage, and if you were afraid, he made you go out there and do things, and I think that he wasn't a technical coach, but he taught you that you had to really work and you had to have some enthusiasm for what you were doing.
I think the coaching era, that time in the Western Hockey League, was geared to, okay, we're going to go in and intimidate everybody. We're going to go and physically beat the other team, and then we'll beat them on the ice. The toughness of the team was how good you were going to be, and each individual, they made them tough. And if you weren't tough, you weren't going to play. The Western Hockey League back then was the Philadelphia Flyers before the Philadelphia Flyers.
In the rough, tough Western Hockey League, Clark was a standout, twice leading the league in scoring. But even to a star junior player, a first look at the NHL game was an intimidating experience.
Patty Janelle, who was our coach, took us to Minneapolis, and we seen the Maple Leafs and the North Stars play, and the idea that someone from Flin Flon and playing on the Junior Bombers was going to play in the NHL was so far removed from my thinking that it never really even crossed my mind. I wanted to try, but I thought for sure I was a minor league player.
After 2 consecutive All-Star seasons in the Western Hockey League, Bobby Clark felt certain there would be an NHL training camp in his future.
The year I was drafted was the first full draft that the National League had, and it wasn't any big deal. I was actually on vacation. I don't think I heard about who drafted me or when I was taken for 2 or 3 days. A part-time scout in Winnipeg finally tracked me down. You know, it was not I mean, we knew the draft was on, but it wasn't that big a deal, and you know, by the time I got to training camp in September, of course, I knew the players that had been taken in front of me and stuff like that, and I knew the reason why I was taken in the second round, and it was because I had diabetes, and that the Flyers had actually called a doctor and asked him if I would have the stamina, and he said sure. I mean, I took insulin so I could live. It wasn't that I wanted it or nothing, and people assumed that because I had diabetes that I wouldn't be strong enough to play at the National League level. I wouldn't have the stamina, but the reality is if you could play junior hockey in Flin Flon, you could play in the NHL. For me, I had no sense of how good an NHL player was. I had no idea until I went to my first training camp. But once you get on the ice, it doesn't take you very long to figure out that you can play with the people that are there. I mean, I didn't know I was going to play in the NHL the first year or so, but I knew I was as good as some of the people that were in the NHL.
There would be no minor league career for Bobby Clark. The expansion Philadelphia Flyers were working hard to build a winner. And in 1969, 20-year-old Clark would make a nervous NHL debut.
You're excited, but you're scared, and you're nervous, and you're everything else that comes with it. And I think, you know, the hour and a half or 2 hours you're at the rink waiting for that darn game to start. And as it turned out, the first time I got on the ice, Bill Goldsworthy took the puck off me and went in and scored on us. And I didn't think I was going to see the ice again, but you know, smarter people than me were running the show, and they just kept throwing us back out there. We got beat that game, but you don't really ever forget something like that.
The expansion team in Philadelphia was a struggling franchise, half-empty seats, and as most expansion teams, not very good at the start.
You go in to play Chicago and you can't get out of your own end. They got Two Holes and Makita and all those guys firing the pucks, and you know, we just weren't good enough to compete with them. You go into Montreal and you're looking at Jean Beliveau and Henri Richard and these guys, holy mackerel. I remember going to Detroit and for the first time, and you look across and I was in the starting lineup. There's myself, Reggie Fleming, and Lou Morrison for the Flyers, and they're starting Gordie Howe, Alex Delvecchio, and Frank Mahovlich. I think we're in a little trouble that night. But, you know, you get through it all, you learn from it.
In Philadelphia, Clark would learn his lessons well. His aggressive play was an instant hit with both fans and management, and the Flyers began to assemble a team that would take full advantage of Clark's tenacity.
Bobby Clark has been the spiritual leader of the Philadelphia Flyers, well, since the day he arrived there. He didn't have too many hockey skills, couldn't outskate anybody, couldn't stick handle anybody, but what a hell of a hockey player he was. He was tough, he was mean, he was aggressive, he wanted to win, and the whole team was designed after his personality.
He was the perfect guy to be front and center because of the way he played the game, which set the benchmark for everybody else, especially the young players who came along and joined the hockey team.
The mental approach that he took to this game was incomparable. His leadership skills on the ice and off the ice, he cared about his teammates and immensely. Helped to bond together a group of athletes that became winners, and winners in their own hearts. And they had a lot of right people at the right time for this, but Bob was the bonding. He was the spiritual leader of this thing, and nothing would get in his way.
23-year-old Bobby Clark was a late addition to the Team Canada roster for the 1972 Summit Series. Expected to see little ice time, Clark refused to be overlooked.
It was because of Clark's tenacity at center ice, his willingness to prove that he's as good as any of these other guys, the Espositos and the bigger names. And that changed his career dramatically, I feel, because he did find against the Russians that he was as good as anybody or better, and it served him well when he went back to Philadelphia and became a great leader there.
1972 Summit Series established Bobby Clark as one of the game's great leaders. The following season, he became the youngest captain in NHL history and was awarded the Hart Trophy as the most valuable player in the NHL. Clark played the game with a simple philosophy: never back down.
Bobby Clark was probably pound for pound one of the toughest players you ever wanted to play against. Knew what it took to win and would do anything possible to get there.
You know you're going to get hit, you know you're going to get whacked, and sometimes you try and hurt somebody, sometimes they try and hurt you, but as long as you're willing to accept those parts of the game, you're going to be all right.
For as much talent as he had, and the talent was well respected, I think most players will tell you Bobby Clark is on the verge of a dirty player. He'll spear you, he'll slash you, he'll break your leg, he'll do anything to win.
The psychological edge that one player can get on another player is a huge part of the game. And if you watch a game closely enough, you can see it happening where one player will jab a player and the guy won't respond, and pretty soon he'll do something else, and you'll see him eventually get to just about own that player on the ice because the guy's not responding to the physical challenge that's thrown at him. And I think that it's one of the great things about hockey, that if someone challenges you, you better be willing to stand up for yourself or you're going to get abused out there. It's a great part of the game. When you play against a great competitor like Sittler or Potvin, there's a hate involved. There has to be. They're trying to beat you, and it's very physical and nasty. And now we're friends, but in those days, I mean, they felt the same about me as I did about them, I think. And I guess when you're playing the game, if you hate a person, that must mean he's a pretty good player.
By the mid-1970s, the Philadelphia Flyers' roughhouse tactics earned them the nickname the Broad Street Bullies. Their fans loved them, the opposition hated them, but the team was winning games.
They were Bobby Clark's Philadelphia Flyers, but the Philadelphia Flyers were a very good team. And I think Bobby personified their attitude. And I think they used that, and they fed off his aggression.
They were big, they were tough, they were mean, they were aggressive, they worked like dogs, and they wanted to win. You get 15 guys like that, you don't need much hockey talent. and they had everybody in the league scared to go into Philadelphia.
I think most players who were on visiting teams coming in were very concerned. I mean, you knew you were in a situation where they were like almost like a pack of wolves together. They were going to intimidate you, they were going to test you, they were going to fight you, they were going to whatever. And that was their way. They perceived that they were going to go on and continue to win.
A lot of people viewed us as the team, oh, here comes the Broad Street Bullies, there will be fights here tonight and so forth. But then the one thing they forgot about is the players with talent were dangerous players. And we could score with the best of them. Our power play ran along in the league as one of the best power plays, and that was kind of shoved off in the back burner.
As fast as the Philadelphia Flyers could blow up and start mayhem, and they were good at it in the heydays. I can tell you this, Bob Clark has much control as anybody in terms of stopping it. Bob Clark would just say, that's it, let the players off or stop or get out of here or go away, and they reacted and they responded to the team leader.
The Flyers were winning fights, but goals win games. The first member of an expansion team to reach the 100-point plateau, Bobby Clark was the leader of the toughest team in hockey and the cornerstone of the high-powered Philadelphia attack.
Clark was a great playmaker. He wasn't a great goal scorer. Didn't shoot especially hard. But if the puck were loose anywhere near the net, he'd just root for it like a hog in mud to get the puck and get it in, and a lot of his best goals were shoved in. Maybe the goalie was shoved in too, and half the other team, but just on sheer determination. But he was a high-skilled, very smart hockey player.
I think Bobby Clark was remembered for his face-off prowess, his toughness, his competitive nature, but around the net, the instinct around the net, and again, you don't like to overuse that word, but the puck follows the good players around. They know where to be. Puck would always come to Bobby Clark on a rebound or through skates. He would be there because he would know where to stand, and it's a natural instinct. And Bobby never got credit for that because he did the other things so well. He was their leader. He was the fierce competitor.
On the ice, Bobby Clark epitomized the Flyers' aggressive style of play. But behind the bench, it was the enigmatic Fred Shero who kept the players focused on a single goal, winning the Stanley Cup.
One morning I come into practice about 9 in the morning, and he's got the last night's game on the film, and he's watching. In those days, nobody watched film. And I go into his office, I look, and he's got a non-filter cigarette in one hand, a Budweiser in the other, and he's kind of watching the game on TV. It's 9 in the morning. I mean, what he knew better than anybody else at the time was he knew men. He was really, really protective of his group of men, and it paid off for all of us.
In 1974, the payoff was a Stanley Cup championship for the Flyers and Coach of the Year honors for Shero. The first expansion team to win the Cup, the Flyers would show that their physical play was not without purpose as they defended their title the following season.
To win the Stanley Cup, I don't know if I have the vocabulary to articulate my own feelings on it. There's obviously, there's a little bit of relief. I've finally done it. And there's the ecstasy that comes with knowing that for a short period of time you're the best in the world, and there's this real wonderful feeling of being part of a group of men who had a goal, and everybody contributed and everybody worked hard for a lot of years for most of us, and you accomplish that goal. I mean, I don't know how to describe the feelings, but there's so many different feelings involved in winning it.
To go with the 1975 Stanley Cup, Bobby Clark received his second Hart Trophy as league MVP. Bobby Clark was truly the heart and soul of the Philadelphia Flyers.
I love to get on the ice, I love to practice, and I love to play, and the rest of the time I wasn't that good at anything really or anything else, but playing and practicing and stuff, that's what I love to do. So I could at least demand from other people that they work hard, because I would always be able to do that. The great players in the game played it with that passion. You could see it. It doesn't mean you're going to be a great player every night, but that great will to win every night, I think, takes ordinary players to another level.
Bobby Clark, in my mind, was the epitome of a team leader. He just would not accept defeat. I can remember those pictures of him grinning with the no teeth in front, and when everything settled down and all the fighting was out of the way and all that other stuff, Bobby Clark was the guy that led that team.
I never analyzed leadership. I know I was captain of the club, and I know I've been given credit for it, but I've never really tried to analyze myself either. I think the one thing that allows a person to be a leader is the people you are working for allow you to have some authority and allow you to have the freedom to make decisions. Many captains are never given any authority to make any decisions. In Philadelphia, I was able to make a lot of decisions because Fred Shero, Mr. Snyder, Mr. Allen, they allowed me to. And those decisions that I made weren't always right, but they were always meant to try and help the club win games, you know. But as far as individual leadership, I don't know. I just went by the ass of my pants.
In 1984, Bobby Clark played his final NHL game. In his 15-year career, he won 2 Stanley Cups and 3 Hart Trophies. He received the Selke Trophy as the league's top defensive forward, and he established a league record for assists by a centerman. After leaving the ice, a move to the front office didn't change Bobby Clark's style. The Flyers come first.
We're going to try our best to make everybody proud of us.
A lot of general managers have never played the game. Never played the game. And it's very, very tough to have a feeling for the game, what you're asking, okay, your players to do to beat your opponent. You have to know what these players can go through. You have to know whether they're giving you their all, physically and mentally. Bobby Clark knows you can't fool him. And now in the field of team management, he don't let go until he gets the best. He don't kick you out the back door unless, you know, unless a bone comes in the front.
As a general manager, Clark wants to win every deal. He doesn't like those deals that help both teams. And if he can, you know, trade you a pork chop for the whole pig, he'll do it gladly and keep smiling. And when the deal's done, then you'll be friends and go and have a beer somewhere.
He needs to beat you. And I don't know whether that's still, I'm sure it still comes from one of his playing days. He needs to beat you. And he's the ultimate warrior competitor. And even though he's wearing a shirt and tie now, that hasn't changed one bit.
Моя игра, здесь правила одни и цель одна. Моя игра, она мне принадлежит и таким же, как и я. Моя игра, здесь правила одни и цель одна. Со мной все нормально, ну и что кровь из носа? Со мной